The Iron Game Chalk Talk podcast is brought to you by the following sponsors: EliteForm.com, IgnitionAPG.com, PlayUSA at PLAEUSA.com, and Sorinex Exercise Equipment at Sorinex.com. And now, the Iron Game Chalk Talk podcast. Welcome to Iron Game Chalk Talk with your host, Ron McKeefery.
Every time our athletes walk into this weight room, they're going to be pushed to the max.
Let's go! Everything you got!
On this podcast, hear Coach McKeefery straight talk about training, featuring the top strength and conditioning professionals from around the world. And now, here's your host, Ron McKeefery.
Hey guys, welcome back to Iron Game Chalk Talk. I'm your host, Ron McKeefery, and this is episode number 184. Super excited to have Henk Kraaijenhof with us today. Henk is a sprint and performance track coach from Belgium, over in Holland there. He's conditioning consultant for most of the sports there, mental conditioning expert for special forces and some tactical groups in the country there. And what a great thing about this show. The internet, technology, being able to reach out to fantastic people around the world, be able to talk shop and share information. And big thanks to Josef with ultimateathleteconcepts.com for connecting the two of us. Henk put out a book recently, and Josef turned me on to it, and just awesome being able to connect like that through a couple degrees of separation. And so I know you're gonna enjoy this episode. We talk about his journey, which is unique, obviously coming from a small country, but having major success on a global stage. We talk about some of the, if you can really train for speed. We talk about mental conditioning. We talk about just making sure that you're prepping your athletes and preparing them for the rigors of competition and keeping them healthy, and the best ways to prevent injury and things along those lines. And just a really interesting conversation. I'm not sure exactly why we had some technical difficulties. For if you typically watch these episodes, usually it's a side-by-side of me and him talking. For some reason, it's just him. It's probably doing you a favor, so you don't have to see my ugly mug. But for some reason, that there was a technical difficulty there. So I apologize for that. But you can hear him loud and clear. You can still hear my audio, so there should be no problems, especially for most of you that listen to it in the car or whatever. Before we get to that, I want to make sure we recognize our sponsor for this episode, EliteForm, a sports science company based in Lincoln, Nebraska. I had a chance to hang out with these guys and see them again over in Australia when I was presenting over there, and Skip and everybody, just first class people. Constantly pushing the envelope in what they're doing with technology. They got some interesting and really awesome products coming out here pretty soon. Some new things that they got going, coming out. And I just encourage you to make sure you check them out next time you're at the conference. We got Sports Pacific Conference coming up, or reach out to them through their social media channels and just follow what they got going on, because I think the world of them. I think they're great people, and obviously their product speaks for itself. So make sure you check out EliteForm.com or follow them on social media to stay up with what they got going on. All right, I want to get to this episode with Henk. Know you're going to enjoy it, and we'll see you on the other side. All right, guys, welcome back to Iron Game Chalk Talk. Real excited to have Henk Kraaijenhof with us over from Holland. He's a sprint and performance coach for track, one of the best in the world. I'm reading his book right now, What We Need Is Speed, and it's just been a real practical, fantastic read so far, and wanted to have him on the show. He's a conditioning consultant for a variety of sports, and a mental conditioning coach for a variety of sports, including some special forces. And so we've got a lot of similar experiences in that regard. And like I said, it's fantastic to be able to have people from around the world to have a conversation, talk shop, and learn from one another. And so, Hank, I really appreciate you coming on the show.
Okay, well, the pleasure is all mine. I'm from a small country, in a big country with so much experience and knowledge in sport and exercise and training. It's great to have an opportunity to talk to people from the US in this way. So it's great.
I feel the same way completely. Hey, let's go into your journey a little bit, just really quick, because I know you've talked about this on some other podcasts and things, and it's out there. But real quick, kind of what got you in, being a former athlete, I think you were a high jumper, right? If I'm not mistaken,
Yeah.
to taking the plunge into coaching and then on to what you're doing now.
Okay, yeah, I started off a high jumper. I never wanted to be an athlete in the first place. I was always reading books as a kid. So I didn't want to go out and play outside and get dirty or do sports or whatsoever. But then my height kind of forced me to be a high jumper, but my real love was sprinting. But my coach said, Henk, you'll never be a sprinter. You'll never be a sprinter. You're too tall. You stay at a high jump. He said, how do you know? I said, well, I know. I'm the regional record holder, or let's say the state record holder. Well, to punish him for that, I beat his record. He had his record for 20 years, I beat it. He ran 10.6, I ran 10.5, just to teach him a lesson. And that kind of made me think, because he wasn't very good as a coach, and I started to educate myself by doing all courses and classes. But then I never wanted to coach anyone. I just wanted to coach myself.
Right.
Somebody twisted my arm. I became a coach of a small club, and the athletes were doing very, very, very well, because in the 1970s, beginning 1970s, first things like plyometrics came on from Verkhoshansky and Zachorsky and Jatskov and all the greats coming from the East Bloc. I started, digging into these books there. There's a whole new world opening for me. And that started my interest in coaching. There must be more beyond the horizon than what my old coach told me.
Sure.
But I'm interested in, let me say, the scientific side of the possibility of adapting people to training. How far can you go? I could run 12 flat, I could run 11 flat, but could I run 10.8 or 10.5 or 10.6? And the same applies to my athlete, just looking for that for the frontier.
Now you decided, after a while, coaching yourself, you kind of naturally started to go work with other athletes. You had tons of success in a country that, isn't, it's phenomenal because you guys are, I think, 10th in the world in medals, right? Something along those lines. But it's a 16 million populated country.
Absolutely, yeah, you got it right. Yeah, 60 million people, and our ambition to be in the top 10, and we made it to 12. We had a couple of serious medal Olympic champions from London who kind of failed for all kinds of reasons. And so, I think that applies to every country. But in the top 12, beyond the big ones, that's not too bad,
No, absolutely. Well, it's a testament to what you and others have done in the country, where it really has been. I mean, you're dealing with a smaller population, and so development becomes a major part of the process, and training and coaching and the mental conditioning. And you've been a part of all different levels of that and doing it at the highest level. When you got in as a young coach, and even now, I mean, I'm 20 years into the profession, but I still make mistakes all the time. But what's one of the biggest mistakes you've made in your career? And I ask this question because I like coaches to learn from other coaches so they can avoid some of the pitfalls that coaches have made. What's one of the biggest questions that biggest mistakes that you've made, and then how you learn from it?
Well, here's a paradoxal one. I was certain that science could help me to become a better coach. So I relied on scientific information. And I found out science is just a minor contribution to sports. I think it's valuable, it's important, but it doesn't help me a lot because science is geared towards averages. But they don't work with average people. If I buy a shirt for you and me, the average shirt for you and me, I'm pretty sure the shirt will be too tight for you and way too big for me.
Sure.
So there's no averages. I don't work with average people. I'm not looking for average performance. I work with genetic, unique people with unique capabilities and limitations. So I'm a very strict individualist, and I learn not to learn too much from what research tells me by plyometrics. You increase performance 5%. In average, but there's people increasing 15%, there's people decreasing with 3%. So which person I'm working with?
Mm-hmm.
So I learned that experience in the end, experience and kind of trial and error or empiric work is more important than the things I learned from my textbook. The textbook worked great for average athletes, but when I started to work with elite athletes, all those things did not apply, all those things did not work.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, and especially now with all this technology that exists, sometimes we're trying to do too much science and not enough of that practical application, and that's the beauty, that's the art, is being able to blend those two. And an effective coach is somebody that can take the complex science, and make it and simplify it for their athletes so that they can understand it. That's the art, and you had the opportunity. I think I heard you talk about, how early in your career you were surrounded by coaches, and so just because you were surrounded by coaches, you wanted to introduce yourself to, the leading scientists, Dr. Verkhoshansky and Dr. Bosco and some of these others, because you were already learning the practical side of things from these coaches, so you wanted to learn more of the science. And I always talk quite a bit about on the show, making sure that whatever your weakness is, you make that your strength. So if you're really strong in the science, make the coaching application your strength. If and vice versa. I think you did that kind of naturally by reaching out to some of these scientists. What were some of the things that you learned, from Dr. Verkhoshansky and Dr. Bosco and some of these others?
Well, from Verkhoshansky, of course, the importance of plyometrics, the stretch shortening cycle, the fast transition from eccentric to concentric, how important it is in natural human movement, in running and throwing and lifting, how important it is. Nobody knew that before. No one was thinking about it before. Then, of course, block organization of strength training, now by Isurin from Verkhoshansky, and is doing more work on that. And he had many very interesting inventions in his first years. It only trickled down very slowly and very late into the practical applications. And Bosco was a very flamboyant, very kind of eccentric kind of person, but a brilliant non-scientist. He also did not really believe in. He believed in the scientific method. He didn't believe in the science. He said science is too slow. He did research on 5 to 10 people, and I said, well, statistically, the scientists criticized that that's not enough. He said, but how many drops of rain do you need on your face to see that it's raining? I don't need to get wet before I understand that I should use an umbrella. I mean, so you reproduce my research and or do it again, and that's fine. But he invented a vibration platform. He invented basically, or did lots of research on power training, the force velocity curve, lots of work on plyometrics, hypergravity with a weight vest, the effect of hormones. He was a brilliant guy.
Yeah, I think that's such an important lesson, for coaches that are listening to the show, wherever they're at in their development, is to seek out mentors and to seek out people that are experts or, leading contributors in the space and reach out to them. I mean, those people, they were probably, they were considered the top at the time, and here you are, a young coach from a country that that's, and you're reaching out to them and they're still responding. And I think that's such an important. That's why you've been able to not only accelerate your learning curve, but then turn around and position yourself as an authority in the space as well, because of you kind of stand on the shoulders of giants.
Yeah. Absolutely, I wasn't afraid to scientists for me were kind of idols, I almost had posters on my bedroom wall as a kid.
Yeah.
So I was thinking scientists were people living a posh life, and getting the Nobel Prizes, driving around in a Porsche and having a good salary, and it was a high threshold for reaching them. And no, they were very humble and nice people, and they were kind of shocked that a coach was interested in their work in sports science. Oh, really? You're one of the first coaches asking me this. I mean, they never thought to go. Oh, never. They don't know. So, but please, they were inviting me, and I went to many countries to speak to scientists, and they enjoyed it, and I enjoyed it too. I learned many things from them. But they had to be creative. They shouldn't get stuck in one little trick that they repeat all over, or on one methodology. You should be creative and, explorative. That's what science is.
Yeah.
Explore. Yeah.
No, I agree with you. Well, I want to get into your book a little bit. What we need is speed and just speed training in general. I mean, I think, most coaches, they lie on that continuum of either you can completely can improve speed, or it's just genetics and that's all it is, and I'm with you. I think that you can develop speed, you can improve speed. There is a genetic ceiling as to what you can reach. If you're a 15-second 100-meter, you're never going to be the world, record holder in the 100-meter, but you can improve your time. Yeah. But it's typically broken down into what those different elements that you have control over. Is it speed and power? Is it your strength training? Is it the coordination? Is it your body composition? And I think you and I were talking off camera about how if you talk to a bunch of different experts in different disciplines, they all think that that's the reason why. If it's nutrition, it's because you're not eating the right things. If it's mental conditioning, it's because you're not prepping the body the correct way. What have you found? What have you found to be the most dependent variable on speed development, and how strength coaches can make the biggest influence?
I think it's well. Let me come back to the first part of your question. No, you can't turn a donkey into a racehorse. That's not the issue. Racehorses are never racing donkeys.
Right.
Donkeys are racing donkeys, and racehorses are, and you can make a racehorse faster. I prefer to have a racehorse to make him faster than a donkey to make him faster. But
that's a great analogy.
It's clear. Yes, and here's the killer of all the conversations. It's basic, but it's the absolute truth. The truth is most of the time in the middle and neglected by everyone for various reasons, but it depends. It depends. It depends on the limiting factor is. If you have a great technique, but you have legs like this, well, you don't go very far in 100 meters. If you have very strong, but your technique is off, otherwise, powerlifters and weightlifters would be the greatest sprinters, and they're just not. The strength is an issue, but everything has to be balanced, and this is the complexity of sprint training. This is the complexity of all training. There's many factors involved, and they are all interacting positively or negatively with each other. And most of the time, we like to focus on one or two factors only. So people have this simple one-liners. You want to be fast, just get strong. Okay, you get strong, but do you get fast? Well, in the beginning, yeah, but in the end, it's not taking you to a gold medal. Oh, you need to be mentally strong. If you're willpower and you're motivated, of course, but there are thousands of motivated people who never make it to the finals.
Right.
So it's not an easy. It depends where your balance is. So the first thing I do is always look at the athlete. Ask the athlete, test the athlete, evaluate the athlete, see what is strong and weak points. Just ask a simple question: why aren't you Olympic champion? Why aren't you Olympic champion? It's a very simple one. And most of the time they come up with, well, I'm too weak, or my technique is suffering, and then, okay, but that's an interesting one. Or maybe they crack under pressure.
Right. No, that's a great question. I think, take it outside of just the Olympic sports. You apply it to football or basketball or baseball or something along those lines as well. And why aren't you at the next level, whatever you view as the next level? That's a great conversation starter in those goal-setting meetings for sure. What have been some of those evaluation tactics that you have used that maybe are outside the norm? I mean, obviously testing for vertical and broad jump and power production is a normal. Is there anything that you're doing that you have found to help you pinpoint weaknesses?
Well, I don't need to be very strict in this, because look, in the US, if you're on the track as a track coach, every year around 100 athletes enter your track. I'm in Holland. I have 60 million people. I'm happy with every warm body that enters the track.
Right, sure.
I can't be too picky.
Right.
So that's the one. But if there's a genetic freak, and in the US there will be 100 genetic freaks running 100 meters in 10 flat, then I'll better make sure I don't destroy him or her in the process of training and coaching, because many athletes don't reach their full genetic potential because of injuries. This is an absolute fact. Look around in your own sports, and you will see many people who are very gifted. They strain their knees, they rupture an Achilles tendon, they pull a hamstring, whatever. It sets them back temporarily or ends their career, or they will never fulfill their promise, or they're chronically injured from one injury to another, small ones, or they're overtrained all the time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, obviously, you got to be able to get the horse to the race, right? They got to be, and they got to feel completely confident and prepared when they step on the field or on the pitch or whatever it may be. From an injuries perspective, I mean, some of the things that we're talking about, the shock method and plyometrics and some of these things, they're very ballistic, and they're very damaging to the body in a lot of respects. How do you balance the ballistic training and things that the power production that requires for you to prepare for the elite with making sure that they're 100% healthy when they're time to go compete at the highest level?
Well, first of all, look at the body structure. Or look at the muscle fiber type, that's even better. Well, if you're born as a jaguar, then I wouldn't let you run marathons like a horse does. If you're born like a cow, it's not a compliment to say, but if you're born like a cow, I won't make you do lots of plyometrics. You never see a cow or a pig do plyometrics. You see cats doing plyometrics quite a lot. A monkey can jump around and swing around and hang arms and strong pulls on them. They can handle it. Why? They are designed for it. Right. So look at the design of the athlete in all aspects: the body structure, body composition, muscle fiber composition. So either you're built for as a sprinter and then you can do lots of plyometrics only from the muscle point of view, or you're built like a long distance runner and then, well, jumping your body is just not designed for explosive contractions. There's so much strain on the muscles and also on the tendons and the fascia and so on, but your body is not designed for that. I'm sorry.
Right.
And there is a certain degree of compensation. It doesn't tell you everything yet, because you might have very strong explosive muscles and, let me say, weak tendons or weak ligaments. That's another one. But you just first try. The best athletes in the world, and the generation that I was following, like Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson never did any plyometrics. He didn't do any bounding or drop jumps. Why not? Injuries. One of my athletes, Nelli Cooman, she was 2 times world champion in the 60-meter dash, world record holder in the 60-meter dash. Couldn't jump. Back problems, she has strong lordosis and knee problems. So should I jumping? No. Does it mean that I will never do plyometrics with other athletes? Yes, of course. I have some athletes who are kangaroos.
Right.
Well, they could jump as much as they want. They never get injured. And some people do, sets of 10 jumps over hurdles and they already grab their Achilles tendons. And, no, for them, not enough. So it's a matter of empirical, just find out their experience.
Sure.
You think too far, how do you need injuries or warning signs to know that the athletes, can handle this kind of exercise? No problem, because there are thousands of other exercises in my book. I bet in your book there's also thousands of other exercises. Somebody has a back problem or knee problem. Well, the books are full of exercise, and we have a whole list of exercises we can do. So if you can do one exercise, you do another one as an alternative.
Right. Well, that's why it's so important to have a lot of different tools in the toolbox, and not be standoffish or selective in what you're programming or the exercise implements that you choose. If you're very selective in that way, I think a quote was like, you wouldn't use a hammer to wash windows. That's not the right tool.
No.
And so I agree with you 100% there. Most recently, or not recently, but throughout your entire career, but I know that you've been putting a lot of work in with athletes lately with the mental conditioning part of things. Yeah. And I know you're doing some work with, I believe it's, the Dutch Marines, right? Or some SWAT teams or something over there?
Yeah. There's a special for the normal Marines, but we also have the Special Forces Department of Marines. They're more specialized in doing, special operations, let me say.
Yeah, sure.
1977, there was a train hijack in Holland, and my 8 people who hijacked train for 3 weeks, and they kind of finished this operation. So they were not normal Marines; they were specially trained at that time, the first group in Holland for that kind of anti-terror terrorist operations.
Sure. And so, working with them and working with athletes, we both agree that the mental side of things, the mental side of conditioning, is a very important piece as well. What are some of the takeaways? What are some small things that you would highly recommend coaches do on a daily basis with their athletes to make sure that they're getting prepared properly for the mental rigors of competition?
Well, there's a very interesting question, Ron. Thanks for this one. Number one, mental toughness is not a byproduct of physical toughness. It doesn't matter how many sit-ups you do, 1,000 sit-ups or a million squats and you puke. It doesn't mean you're mentally tough when you enter the Olympic Stadium. There's no relationship there.
Great.
Workout is a mental workout. You have the opportunity to make athletes stronger and increase their self-confidence, or you have the opportunity, and please don't do this, to decrease this.
Right.
By putting them down, say, this is nothing yet, or just criticize them in a harsh way. You can boost the self-confidence in a realistic way, or just trigger self-confidence of athletes and make them full of doubt. Take away their doubts and their fears in a realistic way. They know they can do it. It's a step-by-step process. We have seen development over, just like physical training. You can't bench press 400 pounds from one day to another. When the moment you enter the weight room to 400 pounds, it's a long way to go. Same for mental toughness, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, one of the lines you said there was take away their doubts, and that really resonated with me. I think some of the best athletes that I've dealt with, and I've worked with some of the most elite athletes in the world, but every single one of them had doubts in some way. Every single one. You would think that they'd be the most confident world beaters out there, but a lot of times there's some real there's some real mental issues there. And you think about it, I mean, the biggest kid in elementary school wasn't always the kid that they were, that they respected or fearful of. It was usually the ones that they were making fun of because they looked different than everybody else, and so that kind of happens throughout the process, or the maturation process. But I think you're right. I mean, identifying what their fears are, or what their doubts are, and then starting to find ways to address those. Every athlete that we deal with deals with some capacity of that.
Well, the real challenge is, of course, to step into their shoes, to get into their brain and look through the world through their eyes. I work with a lot of athletes from different countries: Nigeria, Suriname, Belgium, US, Jamaica, you name it, the Middle East. And they all come from a different cultural and say family background. So the things that you perceive as normal or as being very positive or very negative might not apply to them. They might think different about things. So the trick is to get them to their heads and think, hey, why did you respond so stupid on what I say? There could be a reason for that,
Absolutely.
Their upbringing is a little bit different. So on the one side, you don't have to be, let's say, a psychologist or a psychiatrist or psychotherapy or any soft things. No, but you have to understand that not everybody is like you, and not everybody perceives the world like you are. I'm a coach, you're the athlete. So there's already a difference here.
Right. Well, I know one of my mentors, a coach that I worked for at Tennessee, would talk about the golden rule, which is always do unto others what you would want done unto yourself.
Absolutely.
But he would take it a step further and talk about the platinum rule, which was do unto others how they want to be treated. And because you're right, not everybody wants to respond. Not everybody's going to respond the same way you would to a situation. You need to know what their understanding of the world is, and being able to put it into their terms is really what is an art in and of itself.
The trick is also to find the individual approach. Some people need to be supported and complimented and need your support all the time. And some people might need a little bit more, standoffish, or a little bit, hey, wait a minute, need more correction as a matter of fact. There's no really average here as well. I mean, it's like in any subject. Look about training. Your favorite golden exercise might be my killer, might kill my career. Right. Like plyometrics. Some people did plyometrics from 6 foot high. Well, they did great, but maybe I'm not like you, and maybe you kill my career, and I tear my kneecap or my knee tendon. Then, in nutrition, your superfood might be my poison.
Right.
Like peanuts, it's really good food, proteins, carbs, fibers, fats, really good. But if you're allergic to peanuts, it might kill you.
That's right. Yeah.
Mental aspect as well.
It's a great.
So there's a whole. That's why indeed you need more tools in your toolbox, and the real secret of good coaching is to find the right tool for the right person. So not one size fits all.
Absolutely. Well, Dr. Brian Mann is a good friend of mine, and I know he helped edit the book, and he would be upset with me if I did not ask you about selective hypertrophy, and just really, I think that's such a whatever sport you deal with, there's a balance between developing strength and power with size and mass, it's unfortunately for some sports like early track sprinters that don't really spend a whole lot of time in the weight room, any kind of strength and power work is going to result in hypertrophy to some effect. Talk a little bit about what selective hypertrophy is and kind of how coaches can apply that to the sports that they work with.
Well, selective hypertrophy, look, the bodybuilder doesn't really care. He wants big muscles. If they're fast or slow, he doesn't care because he doesn't have to move. He's just looking at general hypertrophy, fast and slow. Being a sprinter, well, muscle mass isn't too much of a bad thing, but if you gain too much muscle mass and become a bodybuilder, you have to carry that body weight around the track,
Right.
or the track as a matter of fact. So it might limit you. The lighter and the stronger, the better. So I first favor methods that favor recruitment of muscle fibers. That's number one. And when it comes to hypertrophy, then I prefer to hypertrophy of the fast fibers because they're fast, strong, and powerful.
Right.
And hypertrophy of the slow fibers. And by doing too many repetitions and too low volume, you might recruit the slow fibers and make the slow fibers hypertrophy or, well, recruit the slow fibers. And that's not something I'm particularly looking for. And it's an opportunity for people who don't have many fast fibers. Like I always a perfect example of this in strength and explosiveness is Werner Günther, the Swiss shot putter who did more than 22 meters, who only had say 30% of fast twitch fibers. Well, that's basically like a 1500 meter runner or a mile runner. But he managed to selectively increase the size of the fast twitch fibers to a tremendous amount. They were 3 times as big as the slow fibers or as normal.
Right.
And that is total area of fast fibers. Well, it's not the percentage of fibers, it's also their size, of course. It doesn't matter how many people you are. If you're very small people or say midget small people, well, there can be 10 of them. You can fight me with 10 small people. But if there's one big guy, yeah, I'm okay. Or 2 big guys can be enough. So that's it. You can have a few, not too many fast fibers, but in this case, mostly in the explosive sport and strength, you want to increase the fast fibers because they are able to generate power. And power is basically the main thing in all sports. Because power is load, which you always have, it be a tennis racket or a barbell or your own body, that you move at the highest possible speed. Otherwise you can jump high or far, and otherwise you can hit very hard, otherwise you can run very fast. So velocity is always an issue, and the fast fibers are extremely good in generating power.
No, I couldn't agree with you more. Well, hey, we finish off the show with some resources here. Give us the best piece of coaching advice you've ever received.
So the best piece
of coaching advice?
Coaching advice?
Advice.
Advice.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's one from basically Carmelo Bosco. He was not only had 3 PhDs, and his basic study was in cultural history, I think. There was something completely different from sports and biomechanics and physiology, something completely different. So he had a very broad education. One thing he said was, look at, in God we trust, all others show data. That's for scientists. And you say, well, as far as coaching is concerned, you could put out this one, in God we trust, all others show medals or records. Because most of the time we listen to people who are the gurus, but if you look at what comes out of their hands and what they really did, and look at what their athlete performed, it's not that great.
Right.
Some coach an athlete in their life, a decent athlete in their life, and still they're considered gurus, and we listen to them like they know it all and they did it all, and basically they didn't.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty good advice, I think.
I agree with you.
Not only what is said, but also who says it with what weight they can say. If the king of coaches or speed coaches, well, it's not a young kid, 22 years old, who calls himself the speed expert or the speed specialist. No, it's Glenn Mills, the coach of Usain Bolt, who's around for 30, 40 years already. I know him from the very beginning.
Right.
He coached all the great Jamaican sprinters consistently over the last 30 years. One world record holder, one world champion after all. Males, females, they all went to the hands of Glenn Mills. You never hear of the guy. He doesn't have a website. He's not on Facebook. He doesn't have a brochure. You can do courses with him. He doesn't lecture a lot. So, but I admire his words, and I'm willing to understand his words and give more attention to his words than to somebody who, well, basically never coached anyone.
Right.
And it's to be very critical, not to put anyone down, but just be very critical. Listen to the right people, And the internet is the biggest garbage can of information. Everybody can say their opinion, but our filters are not very good. We listen to the words that sound very nice and very smart, but if you open the curtain and look what has been done, then, well, sometimes you're shocked. People never did anything and claim to be the expert in the field.
Right. No, I couldn't agree with you more. And I think that there's, out there right now, you got such a polar ends. You got, like you said, Usain Bolt's coach that doesn't do anything to kind of put out the information. And then you got these coaches that haven't coached a single person or know what really true elite speed looks like, that are saying that they're the speed experts. And we got to get to the middle somewhere. We got to get our experts giving more information out there, so that, it's a way to leave a legacy, as well as, just like yourself, putting out books and resources and things like that, because there's people that are hungry for that and in search of those answers, but they're looking to the wrong places. And so what you said was, listen to the right people. I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah. Coaching, education, and research for me always go hand in hand. It's part of my job. I have to coach athletes. I have to do research to find out why things are working the way they sometimes they confirm what I thought, and sometimes they say, I've always been wrong because I thought it was, but look at the numbers, it's something different. And then I have to educate my colleagues and my athletes with the information that I found. It's my duty to do that, to educate everybody in the field of sports, and not keep it as this is my secret formula, my secret exercises, my secret what, that's all bullshit. And no, there are no exercises. And then it is not said that you need to be coaching an Olympic champion to be a coach, to be valued, or to be trusted in what you say. You can even have people running 11 flat in the 100 meters. But if you do this consistently over years, and you can see that you squeeze out the best of the material that you got. Not everybody is lucky to run into a potential Olympic champion in the 100 meters. Not everybody is that lucky.
Right.
You don't need to, but you need to see consistency, you need to see improvement, you see the new little injuries, and you need to see the athletes having fun doing it. And the athletes, after 10 years, they look back and say, hey, my coach was the greatest, he was the greatest guy, he learned me a lesson in life. And so that's better than, listen to the expert and the specialist.
No, I couldn't agree more. We're going to make sure we link up your book and your website and everything. Give me your website again. What was your site?
Okay, my website is, I have my blog. I'm a little bit slow these days because I'm too busy in my old age. Sure. It's called helpingthebesttogetbetter.com.
Yeah, that's great. We'll make sure we link all those up, but we always ask a book, app, and website recommendation. So if I know you, you panned over and showed me your library earlier, which is massive. Let's narrow it down to one book that you would recommend a young coach read. What's maybe a book that you think that every young coach should read? Doesn't have to be strength and conditioning even.
No, okay. Well, number one is Adaptation in Sports Training by Atko Viru. It's an expensive book, but it's worth every penny. It's rather technical, absolutely. You have to understand biochemistry a little bit and endocrinology a little bit. But especially the first couple of chapters are all about how does the human body adapt to training, and why does it adapt, and how does it adapt. In very, very simple terms explained. And later on he goes through some other stuff, but that's very important. And it's in English, so that's good. He was myself from former Russia. He's considered to be a brilliant exercise physiologist. Wrote many articles. That's a book I advise to everybody. But there's so many great books out there right now. People are publishing books by the thing is that if you read any exercise physiology book right now, 90% of the books are all the same. It doesn't really matter anymore.
Right.
Because go to the muscle fiber, how does the muscle fiber work, and muscle fiber composition, how does the heart work, and so on and so on. Right. So most exercise physiology books are only 5 or 10% different from the one that you bought before.
Right.
It's very hard to find a book that really stands out or tell you something new or different.
I agree with you. Any websites that you check out regularly?
Many. There was the last one. I think was pretty good. From Chris Birchley and Brad Contreras, I think. Science and conditioning research, something like that. I looked at it, and it's not only the work they do, but it's also the way they explain things and infographics and so on. That's, of course, new. In former days, used very complicated graphs and statistics. But now infographics, it's very good for coaches to see that.
Right. I'll throw out Ultimate Athlete Concepts at uaconcepts.com as well, because I mean USF it does a fantastic job of introducing coaches like yourself to people over here all the time with great works that exist. And I just want to take a minute and acknowledge you for the works that you've contributed and the work that you've done and how you've done it. That's one of the things that I love about this show is being able to connect with coaches on the other side of the world that have a wealth of information and be able to share them openly is something that we're very blessed to be able to do in this country and others. And I just appreciate you coming on the show and sharing with everybody.
Once again, you're welcome. And if you have more things to ask or to share or want to discuss or brainstorm or whatever, people know my email address, I hope, or they know my website, or they can even phone me. It doesn't really matter. My door is always open for colleagues, so I'm willing to stick their necks out.
That's great. Thanks so much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
That's it for this episode of Iron Game Chalk Talk. Thanks to this week's guest as well as our sponsors for bringing this episode to you for free. Make sure to check out ronmckeefery.com where you can join our mailing list, find the show notes, including all the links and resources mentioned, and information about Coach McKeefery's other products. While you are there, please join Coach McKeefery in the comments section thanking our guest for sharing. If you haven't subscribed to Iron Game Chalk Talk on YouTube or iTunes yet, make sure to do so. Comments, ratings, and reviews are always welcome. Coach McKeefery can be found on Twitter at @RMcKeefery, on Facebook and YouTube at /Ron.McKeefery. That's it for this week. Be sure to check back next week for another great episode of Iron Game Chalk Talk.